Moving through the dark evening, cool gusts as the doors open and close. Crammed into a small bus, witnessing people. Waiting at South Congress in Oltorf as the connection riders pile on from their previous east to west bus, the 333. This is the 801, Congress to North Austin, University of Texas, St. Edwards. It becomes a party, not enough seating, drinking, smiling, laughing, people exchanging looks and expressions. This is the 801. Blasting music like trumpets, vibrant energy. The city feels alive and tired on this cold night. Austin, Texas is a great city to live. People know Austin for Barton Springs, Texas barbecue, and the live music. While these qualities of the city's identity are great, there is another story that has been left out. A story that lives on the streets and sidewalks. Texas is a car-centric state, and Austin is no exception. Most locals in Austin drive cars and live their life from behind the wheel. But a question for all Austinites: have you ever looked at the bus stop and wondered the stories of people riding the bus? It's a different way to perceive, feel, and experience Austin. Cat Metro, Austin's bus service, has long served the Austin transit community, so in order to tell this story, I went to a location that also tells Austin, the Austin Visitor Center. Upon arriving at the Visitor Center, I could not clearly locate any information about buses in Austin. I asked the person at the front desk, and she told me that the locals don't really take the bus in Austin. She gave me relevant route information created by Cat Metro and kindly told me about the new light rail that goes to the Q2 Stadium, but nothing about buses. I was quite shocked to hear this. Growing up, I took the bus all over the city of Austin. Taking the bus from a young age instilled in me a deep connection to the community and environment of Austin. When I think of home, I think of taking the number 3 down Menchaca and getting off at Fair Oaks Drive. My trip to the Austin Visitor Center furthered the notion that citizens and tourists are disconnected from Austin bus ridership. This disconnection leads to a missing story of many Austin locals. What is it like to move through the city on a public good? What's it like to experience transportation on a communal level? This provoked me to ask a guiding question of this project. What is the experience of riding the bus in Austin, Texas, and why does this perspective matter to understand the city of Austin in a new light? Welcome to the story of bus ridership at the St. Edwards bus stop on South Congress. To tell this story, I began talking to people. While I was transferring buses, a man asked me for directions. I thought this would be a good opportunity to start a conversation, to learn about who takes the bus and why. He introduced himself as AJ. He was a middle-aged black man. AJ had woken up early that morning and walked from Kyle to South Park Meadows Transit Center to catch the bus into Austin. This is a 14-mile walk. He needed to go to custody court downtown. He told me his ex-girlfriend made sure he could not live in Austin. A day later, while I was waiting at the St. Edwards station, I met Benito, a 52-year-old Latino man. He told me he was in prison for 17 years. He gave me advice and told me that the only person that can change you is yourself. He told me that there is nothing out on the street except pain and suffering. He told me to go to school and make something of myself, pointing at St. Edwards behind us. He told me that while he was in prison, his friends began sleeping with his girlfriend. He took a drink of liquor. He told me this was his first drink in 6 months. He worked at a game room and built tiny homes. He said, "Stick to your word." He said that there aren't any real homies around anymore. He lives off Woodward. He began to cry. He told me he lost a lot of good people to drugs and drinking. He said, "Watch yourself before you hit someone." He told me to do what drug you want, whatever makes you happy. He said that he didn't care if you're gay, straight, trisexual, whatever makes you happy. He said that every day is a gift, a new chapter, and a new opportunity. The process of beginning to have conversations with bus riders shed light on the story I'm trying to tell. A story about experience, and purely the experience. This is not a story to tell city officials to invest in better transportation. That story has been told before. This is a story of being present. Being on a bus with people is communal. Waiting at a bus stop with people is relatable. Everyone is waiting for the same thing, the bus. I wanted to go deeper into this story, so I began interviewing people. I wanted to gain a perspective from someone who does not come from the U.S., so I interviewed Bruno Echt, who came to St. Edward's University from Buenos Aires, Argentina. He shared his observations of taking the bus in Austin and how this experience has influenced his view of American culture.
For example.
And how does it feel walking to each bus stop, getting on the bus? Like, what do you see in your walk over there? Are there any images that pop out in your head?
So from the bus stop of St. Edward's, that's the one I usually go to, I just see people on campus. And being honest, when I will go to the stop, I will always run into similar characters. I would say that there's always these characters you run into that are habitués of the buses. I would always see this couple fighting.
And how, as someone coming from another country, coming to the U.S. and possibly trying to understand the culture more, would you say the bus was influential in that degree to understand Austin's culture?
I think the bus was influential to understand overarching culture in the USA. That doesn't apply to, let's say, maybe New York for being had better public transportation. But it made me understand that from an outside perspective, I can see here that it's not common to walk to places, it's common to go in cars. And in a way, the urban planning of the cities have been created that way in many places in the USA. And that the urban planning has been made for cars, and it has been ingrained in the American society so much that there's a prejudice around riding the bus here. And I really respect people that ride the bus that are American.
I interviewed someone at the St. Edward's station who used the bus to commute to and from work. How do you take the bus?
I don't have a car, I can't afford one, and actually I really don't want one. It's a real hassle driving, it's scary. I can drive. I like to drive like out of state. If I have a car to rent or whatever and go visit someone, that's fine. I don't think cars belong in cities. I think they clog up all the roads, and it's dangerous for pedestrians, it's dangerous for cyclists, it's dangerous for children. I mean, it's okay for some people to drive, I get it, but like all this constant car traffic could be avoided if we just had better transit.
And what's kind of your commute like to the bus stop, and then once you get off to work, what's that kind of like? What do you see? How does that feel?
Okay, well, it's not that bad. I just cross one street at a crosswalk. Just got to be careful at intersections because people like to whip around the corner, especially when they stop on red. They don't stop, and they're supposed to yield, and they just whip around, and that's very scary, so I have to be careful. But on the walk here, it's just like any other walk in the city, I guess. It's not really... At night, though, I'd have to have my husband with me.
Gotcha.
In this neighborhood, so...
I offer these stories for the listeners to interpret as it applies to their own lives. My goal of this story is not to tell people to stop driving, but rather to encourage people to think about their story of Austin. The story of navigating the city through the bus is drastically different than moving through Austin by car. One of the differences between a car and a bus is that on the bus, you are forced to be surrounded by people. When one chooses to interact with the culture and community of Austin that is around them, their worldview and perception of Austin may ever so shift.